Just a short distance from the crowds and the traffic of Miami, you can find two national parks that reveal a completely different side of South Florida.
One is mostly hidden beneath the water. The other is a vast wilderness filled with alligators, birds, and landscapes unlike anything we see back home in Alabama.
On this part of the journey, we visited Biscayne National Park and Everglades National Park. Although the two parks are close together, they gave us two very different experiences.
Our first stop was Biscayne National Park. It's located just south of Miami. At first glance, it may not look like the national parks most of us picture. There are no towering mountains, deep canyons, or long scenic roads winding through the wilderness. That's because approximately 95% of Biscayne National Park is covered by water.
The park protects beautiful waters, coral reefs, mangrove shorelines, and a chain of small islands.
From Biscayne, we continued to Everglades National Park, where we would spend considerably more time and have several experiences that we will not soon forget.
We began at the Visitor Center to learn more about the park, find out what was available, and secure our campsite for the evening. Afterward, we drove to the campgrounds so that we would know exactly where it was before continuing deeper in the park.
That turned out to be a good decision. The Everglades is enormous, and distances can be deceiving. A location that looks fairly close on a map may require a long drive to reach.
When we drove toward the western side of the park, we found a beautiful area with facilities for lodging, boating, and camping, along with several places to explore by bicycle.
It was a peaceful place, and one of our favorite moments came when we discovered a pair of nesting ospreys.
We sat and watched as the adult birds flew back and forth bringing fish home for dinner. There is something special about watching wildlife from a distance and simply allowing the scene to unfold naturally. The ospreys were not performing for us. They were just going about the daily work of caring for their little ones.
It was one of those quiet moments that may not sound especially dramatic, but when you are there watching it happen, it becomes one of the memories that stays with you.
As the day came to an end, we were treated to a beautiful sunset over the water. The sky slowly changed colors and the reflections stretched out across the surface. It was the perfect ending to our first day in the Everglades.
We also encountered a few signs that we definitely do not see very often.
When you're in the Everglades, you quickly realize that you're visiting the wildlife's neighborhood. You need to pay attention to where you walk, where you stop, and perhaps what might be watching you from the water.
Our campground was only about 20 or 30 miles from Miami, but it felt as if we were much further away. There were very few campers there, and once darkness settled over the park, everything became incredibly still.
This very well may have been the quietest campground we had ever stayed. There were no city noises, very little traffic, and none of the usual activity you expect in a busy campground. We were surrounded by open space, darkness, and sounds of nature. In fact, Jenny thought it was a little creepy.
It was the only place that we were at on the trip that I really was frightened. Being so close to a major city while feeling completely isolated was one of the most surprising parts of our visit.
The following morning, we made a long drive around to the northern side of the Everglades. Our destination was Everglades Safari Park, where we had decided to take one of the area's famous airboat rides.
The airboat carried us across shallow water and through a landscape filled with sawgrass, lily pads, and wildlife. It gave us an entirely different perspective of the Everglades, and it was also a lot of fun.
Along the way, we saw several different birds, alligators, even a few snakes. One bird that especially caught my attention had enormous feet which allowed it to walk across the lily pads without sinking.
Watching it step lightly from one lily pad to another was a wonderful reminder of how perfectly wildlife is adapted to its surroundings.
Of course, no airboat ride through the Everglades would feel complete without seeing a few alligators. Several were resting along the water, swimming nearby. They seemed completely unconcerned about us, but we were certainly paying attention to them, and we were not interested in taking a swim.
After the ride, Quentin was offered an opportunity to pose for a close-up photograph with a small alligator.
At the time, I wasn't especially concerned. The little alligator had a strap around its snout, and everything appeared to be under control. And then I saw the photograph that Jenny had taken.
That strap looked just a little looser in the picture than it had looked while Quentin was holding him.
I couldn't believe how loose it appeared to be. I'm glad I didn't notice that until afterwards. Otherwise, my expression in the photograph might have looked considerably different.
Before leaving the area, we made one more unusual stop. It was the tiny Ochope Post Office, commonly recognized as the smallest post office in the United States.
Naturally, we had to mail postcards to our grandchildren. There was something fun about sending them a message from such a tiny, unexpected place.
We eventually made our way to Everglades City, where we stopped for dinner at Captain Morgan's Seafood Grill.
As far as we were concerned, it was a 5-star meal and a wonderful way to finish our Everglades adventure. After dinner, we drove to Naples, where we spent the evening.
Biscayne and the Everglades are located close to each other, but experiencing them requires two very different approaches. Biscayne taught us the importance of planning ahead, especially when most of the park can only be explored by boat.
The Everglades gave us quiet camping, nesting ospreys, a beautiful sunset, an airboat ride, and more close encounters with alligators than I normally prefer.
Together, the two parks showed us a side of South Florida that exists beyond the beaches, hotels, and crowded highways.
They reminded us that even near a city like Miami, wild and beautiful places are still waiting to be explored.
Thank you for joining us on another Ramble Quest adventure.
If you enjoyed traveling with us, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And come along as we continue exploring God's creation, one story at a time.